Morning, everyone. This is day 17 of the Trump Republican shutdown, and the House and Senate Democratic position remains the same. We look forward to sitting down with anyone, anytime, any place, either here at the Capitol or back at the White House, to reopen the government, to enact a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people, while also addressing decisively the Republican health care crisis that continues to hurt everyday Americans all across the country. Every day that goes by, there are people throughout America receiving notices that their health care premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket. In the district in upstate New York, the North Country, currently represented by Elise Stefanik, there are couples who currently pay about $2,000 per year for their health insurance premiums because they benefit from Affordable Care Act tax credits. When those credits go away, that same couple will now pay more than $20,000 a year. They cannot afford that. These are working class Americans living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by, can barely survive, yet alone thrive. In this country, and this is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. So House and Senate Democrats are going to continue to hold firm as it relates to a basic common sense position that when we enact spending bills, we should be helping the American people, not hurting them. And so we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. But we will continue to extend that offer to our Republican colleagues and to President Trump and members of his administration. Let's sit down in good faith to reopen the government, to stand by our hardworking federal employees, to enact a spending bill that actually improves the quality of life of the American people, and to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created, devastating people all across the country, including in rural America, in black and brown communities all throughout America, in urban America, in the heartland of America, and in small town America. Questions?
There you go.
Thank you. It's looking increasingly unlikely that the shutdown will end before the end of the month, and some members of your conference have said that they'll forego paychecks at the end of the month during the shutdown. Are you going to make the same commitment now that it's getting closer?
We have a caucus meeting later on today. I think that's going to be one of the issues that we'll discuss.
You are demanding that Grijalva be sworn in this afternoon. If she is not, what are you planning on doing, and are you going to be there for the program?
All options are on the table with respect to Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva. It's shameful that she has not been sworn in because Speaker Johnson and House Republicans apparently want to continue to hide the Jeffrey Epstein files from the American people. This has gone on now for weeks. And so it's my expectation that if she is not sworn in today, during the pro forma session today, as the Arizona Attorney General has made clear, expect swift and decisive legal action.
Following up on Grijalva, did you hear back from the Speaker in response to the letter that you sent him yesterday?
I have not heard back from the Speaker yet, but House Republicans and Senate Republicans have gone radio silent since the Oval Office meeting that took place about 3 weeks ago, because they have no defensible position. Their position is, we want to continue to benefit the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, and promote the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. That's the Republican position. That's what they did with their one big ugly bill. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history, devastating people across the country, ripping food from the mouths of children, and they did all of that so they could reward their billionaire donors with massive permanent tax breaks. And now with the Affordable Care Act tax credits expiring, they have zero interest in spending a dime to help out working class Americans. By the way, same group of people that found $20 billion, matched by another $20 billion, that the American taxpayers will be on the hook for $40 billion in total to bail out Argentina, and they can't find a dime to protect the health care of the American people? This is extraordinary stuff. And no word from the Speaker about any of it, because they just continue, unfortunately, to be rubber stamps for Donald Trump's extreme agenda.
Leader Jeffries, food banks are preparing for a surge. Federal workers are missing their paychecks, and millions of Americans could soon lose out on the food assistance. So at what point does this shutdown become too painful to continue these healthcare demands?
Well, we need to reopen the government, and we need to reopen the government now. Part of the problem is that House Republicans are nowhere to be found. Literally have been on vacation for 3 consecutive weeks, have canceled votes for 3 consecutive weeks. They are in the Legislative Witness Protection Program. No one can find them here in the Capitol, and no one can find them in their districts. They're not holding town hall meetings. They're not visiting federal employees. They're not engaging with their constituents. They've been on vacation for 3 weeks, House Republican, in the middle of a shutdown. And so what we need is for them to come back to work so we can work this out, reopen the government, stand by our hardworking federal employees. By the way, the Trump administration this year, before the shutdown, has forced out over 200,000 civil servants. That's before the shutdown. So they've already been targeting viciously and maliciously federal civil servants, undermining the ability to provide services to taxpayers in an effective and an efficient way. And so cruelty has been the point for this administration. We know this because the OMB director said his goal was to traumatize federal workers and thereby traumatize the American people. That's their words. Paul?
Do you have any information or update or anything about this bizarre happenings with flags and one flag and a swastika and now potentially more flags? Has anybody given you any information about that?
We've not gotten any information specifically from the Speaker or from House Republican leadership, although it is a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America, and then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress. You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible. Like, this is apparently who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off in plain view of the American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's sick, she's out of control, and I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone-cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Question on the second.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any comment on the New York City mayoral debate yesterday and how long you're still waiting to endorse on?
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to review it. I do expect to speak to the Democratic nominee, Zoran, at some point before early voting.
Mr. Leader.
President Trump has said he's canceled the Gateway project. He's going to be prepared to slash welfare benefits in his latest comment. Is that even legal, what he's proposing to do, and does that make it harder to resolve the shutdown?
You know, we're going to continue to stand up for the American people, cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. We've made that position very clear from the beginning, and we're not moving. We're not going to bend. We're not going to break, because it's the health care of the American people that's at stake. And all of these efforts to try to intimidate Democratic members of the House and the Senate are not going to work, because we are on the side of the American people. And much of the action that the Trump administration is taking, of course, is unlawful and illegal. As a federal judge in Northern California found with respect to the dismissals of about 4,000 or so federal employees. That was found to be unlawful. And so these threats to try to back us off our position, it's not working and it's not going to happen, because there is a Republican healthcare crisis that is devastating the American people, and we're going to continue to stand up for everyday Americans.
Mr. Leader, you've been really trying to show united force with Leader Schumer. You guys have appeared together quite a bit. Yesterday on the floor, Leader Schumer encouraged every American to go out and participate in these No Kings rallies over the weekend. I know you said you hadn't looked at your schedule. Do you plan to participate in a No Kings rally? Will it be in New York? And why do you think that these rallies are important this weekend?
Well, I haven't finalized my schedule for the weekend, given the sensitivities around the government shutdown, and I'm still very hopeful that Republicans will decide to show up for work so we can get the government back open. But I support the right of every single American to participate in the rallies that are going to take place this week. And showing up to express dissent against an out-of-control administration, that's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. That's the First Amendment. And the notion that this unhinged White House spokesperson would suggest that that's hateful. That's not hateful. What's hateful is what happened on January 6th. That was a Hate America rally sponsored by Donald Trump and his sycophants who incited a violent mob to storm the Capitol. That's what hate looks like. What you'll see this weekend is what patriotism looks like. People showing up to express opposition to the extremism that Donald Trump has been unleashing on the American people, and Donald Trump's failures, the Republican failure to keep their core promise. Because you know what their core promise was last year? They were going to lower the high cost of living. They haven't lowered the high cost of living. Costs haven't gone down on day one as they promised. They lied to the American people. Costs have gone up. Inflation has gone up. Grocery prices out of control. Housing costs out of control. Electricity bills skyrocketing. And now, because Republicans refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans, health insurance premiums are about to blow through the roof, bankrupt people, and prevent them from being able to see a doctor when they need one. Thank you, everyone.
Now, tomorrow, the Democrat leaders are going to join for a big party out on the National Mall. They're going to descend on our Capitol for their much-anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally, okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, you're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party. That's where they've gone. And the Hate America rally is the common theme among all those groups. Listen to the language they use themselves. Many of them don't like living in America. They hate capitalism. They hate our free enterprise system. They hate our principles. They hate the ideas that we come in to work every day to fight for, to preserve, in the greatest nation in the history of the world. They hate the idea of individual freedom and limited government. They hate the idea of the rule of law. They fight against it all the time. They hate the idea of peace through strength. They lobby against it all the time. Individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity, the things that lead to human flourishing, the things that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world. They're opposed to law enforcement. They're opposed to military. And their votes show it over and over. That's the collection of voices that you'll hear tomorrow that the Democrats will go out and raise their hands with and cheer with. And some of these people are so blinded by their hatred of President Donald Trump that they can't find one reason to celebrate America or all that we've accomplished and continue to accomplish under this new administration. Now, obviously, every American has every right to exercise their First Amendment freedoms. I'm personally a big advocate of that. I spent the first 20 years of my legal career in the federal courts before I came to Congress defending the right to free speech. They have the right to do it. Republicans, by the way, are the party that fights to maximize your liberty. And we believe, just as our founders did, that every American has been endowed by God himself with unalienable rights, and that includes the rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. But tomorrow, this rally is not about freedom. It's about the opposite. For many of our Democrat colleagues, tomorrow is about creating really a spectacle. That's what they've been doing here every day of the shutdown with their little TikTok videos and their publicity stunts, and they're going to do it in a much larger venue tomorrow. And as the shutdown drags on, it's becoming increasingly clear that this spectacle is the reason the Democrats have refused to reopen the government. Just read a sample of the materials that this organizing group has circulated far and wide about the event tomorrow. They distributed talking points cheering on the shutdown. I mean, they're urging this on. They love this. They're cheering on Chuck Schumer's decision to close the government, and their lead organizer said this. This is his words, not mine. Quote, "He hasn't surrendered yet. I call that progress." Maybe that's what led Chuck Schumer to say that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. That's what he said. Since then, Democrats have had their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th opportunities to reopen the government, and they have obeyed the mob. They have listened to that. On Wednesday, this is pretty ominous. I don't know if anybody's reported on this, but you should. The lead organizer of tomorrow's event issued an open threat to Democrats in Washington, and this is what he said, quote, "The cavalry is coming in on October 18th, and they're either going to be celebrating you or they're going to be calling for new leadership in the Democrat Party." Now, I know who heard that. Chuck Schumer heard it. Hakeem Jeffries heard it. And their actions and their votes show that they are taking that as an order. Evidently, they've decided it's more important to show a fight to President Trump and appease this mob than to reopen the government and ensure the American people are taken care of. It's a binary choice right now. And to the surprise of literally no one, Chuck Schumer confirmed yesterday that he'll attend tomorrow's rally. Of course he will. He gave an impassioned speech on the Senate floor. He urged his colleagues to stand with him and fight against President Trump. The fight is absurd. Senator, you've been in office for 44 years. You've been in Congress longer than that, but you've been in Congress for 44 years, and everybody clearly understands what's going on. You're holding the entire country hostage to protect your own political career. I mean, no one can deny that. And what you're doing is absurd. You're demanding $1.5 trillion new spending instead of the clean, totally nonpartisan CR that you yourself voted for just 7 months ago. The whole charade is obvious. And I also want to point out the irony that is equally clear, okay? As much as we disagree with Schumer and the Senate Democrats and all that's going to happen tomorrow, no one, not a single person is going to be standing in their way of their right to exercise, assemble, and protest peacefully. That alone is a profound testament to the strength of our republic, to the beauty of America. They are decrying the country that allows them to engage in this activity. And the last time I checked, Americans have more freedom right now to express themselves and speak their minds after Republicans took over and ended the years of having millions of Americans' voices systematically silenced during the COVID pandemic years and the left's cancel culture. It is the Republicans that restored your right to share and speak your mind. And that's the first and most obvious irony of the Hate America rally. The second and even more absurd fact is that all the Democrats who are so angry that they don't control the government are the same people who have decided to shut it down and hand the keys to President Trump. That's the great irony. Chuck Schumer said it himself. I brought just 2 lines out of his New York Times op-ed that he wrote and published March 18th of this year. And he pointed out there, in a shutdown, this is his words, the Trump administration would have wide-ranging authority. He said there's no check on their determinations on what is essential and what is not. Chuck Schumer put it in writing and published it. He knew this scenario, and he is the one that has decided to hand the keys to the kingdom to President Trump. When you shut down the legislative branch, the chief executive has the authority to make the decisions in the executive branch. He has no choice. They have turned off the funding streams, and they have to triage the situation with federal spending. Everybody on the Mall this weekend should recognize and remember who's responsible for taking the reins of Congress and handing them to President Trump. It's Chuck Schumer. He's the one that's done it, and he can make it stop tomorrow if he had the courage to tell you the truth. But he's incapable of telling the truth right now, and he's doing something that's unprecedented. Never in the history of Congress has a party shut down the government over a clean CR. This is an unprecedented event, and it's inexcusable. And it's Chuck Schumer who's making the decision to keep the government closed. And until the mob and Bernie and AOC and the rest of the socialists give him permission to reopen the government, we're afraid that Americans are going to continue to suffer at the hands of Democrats' political games. I doubt Americans will hear that on the protest stage tomorrow, but that is the truth. And it's why Republicans are here and will continue to be here every single day, sharing the facts with the American people for as long as it takes.